Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Squires, and this is the Couch Riffs podcast, episode 97, with my very special guest, LG, the leader, singer, and guitar player of Thelma and The Sleaze. Now, if you don't know who Thelma and The Sleaze is, I highly recommend you go navigate to your favorite streaming service. Enjoy their newest album, Fuck, Marry, Kill, which is also a fun game to play with your friends. And then go to their website, thelmaandthesleaze.com, and order their record. That's what I did. And I regret it not even the slightest bit. It's great. It's a great rock and roll record. And LG is talented beyond what she reveals there. So we had, in some ways, my favorite conversation in Couch Riffs history. In some ways, it was fun. We had some laughs. We also talked about some real shit. And I appreciate that. I like when people go talk about the real stuff with me. And also, she's a good talker. So I didn't have to drag anything out of her. I didn't have to worry about much dead time, which is great. I love that. She's got her own podcast, Queen of Shit Mountain. Go check that out. She interviews all, as I think she put it, uncompromising women in entertainment. And that's great. She had Tanya Tucker, Brittany Howard. You can find it on Spotify and all the other streaming services. I think she may post, there will be links on her Facebook there as well. So go check that out. And when things get back up and running, go see Thelma and The Sleaze live. I passed up my opportunity last summer when they played a festival in Hudson, and I have been kicking myself ever since because I've only seen footage on YouTube of them playing live, and it looks like an incredible good time. So don't do as I've done. Let's see what else. We are coming right up on 100 episodes, which is pretty exciting. I have some special announcements I'll make the week of my 100th episode release. Some fun stuff. One of those things is going to be a little bit of a thank you to all the folks who have supported the podcast and who continue to support the podcast. So there's a special treat for you coming, and it's not like a one-time thing. It's a thing that you'll have access to always. And so I'm looking forward to that. I hope you do too. So right now I want to thank those people. You can support the podcast for as little as 99 cents a month. Just go to anchor.fm and type in Couch Riffs, or right in your wherever you're listening to this, down at the very bottom of the description of the podcast, there's a link that goes straight to the support page. And boom, for 99 cents a month, you can help keep Couch Riffs afloat, alive, growing, continue to help us get good guests, and help him keep it improving week after week. So listen up. Thank you, Ryan Waters. Thank you, Hayden Smith. Thank you, Jamie McParland. Thank you, Teresa Morgan. Thank you, Matt Gabbs. Thank you, Justin Jones. Thank you, Doug Starkovic. Thank you, Deja Colantuono. Thank you, Adam Pranica. Thank you, Dan Hurst. Thank you, Joan McKagan Baker. Thank you, Dan Leary. Thank you, Kathy Giordano. Thank you, Mike Lacerda. Thank you, Rebecca Pellman. Thank you, Danny Bland. Thank you, Chris Smith. Thank you, Perry Morgan. Thank you, Oliver Spencer. Thank you, Paul Hutzler. Thank you, Justice Gash. Thank you, Steve Hall. Thank you, Rolla Amplifiers. Go check out that Bob Balch amp and look for Bob in an upcoming video episode of Couch Riffs. And thank you to River City Guitars, the little guitar store in Spokane, Washington that could, and does. My guy out there, Bobby, and his staff of brave guitar warriors are here to please you with their delightful selection vintage, used, and super cool instruments, amps, pedals. My guy Bobby is out there working 28 hours a day, rustling up all of the hottest guitars that you can get your paws on. Now, he does a lot of road work. If you are listening and you have a guitar that you'd like to sell, I've said this before, like maybe you want to build a new deck and you got a guitar that was yours or is yours, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was your parents or your grandfather's or something. I don't know. Maybe it's worth something. Maybe it's not. But leave it up to the pros. Bobby is fair, honest, family fella, and a supporter of community in Spokane and beyond. So you can count on him to come in and treat you right, give you a fair price for your instrument. And it's going to move on to have a good life in the hands of someone who's going to put it to good use and play it. That's what I'm hoping for. That's like the Humane Society for guitars. I love it. Now listen, every single week, I pick a new guitar, or I pick a new item of the week. It's not always a guitar, right? You know, this week I was thumbing through and I was like, you know what, this thing's been up here for a minute. And I always just like scroll right by it. But the thing is, I got a real soft spot for these things. This week, it is an 80s Ibanez, made in Japan, okay, Roadstar 2, RS 140. So that is the pre, like, super exaggerated cutaway horn Roadstar, you know, pre-gem, pre-all that. This is from 85. So it's got like these little nubs on the cutaway. Growing up, I had a friend who had one of these, and I was always so jealous. It just thought it was the coolest guitar. I even, like, in the last couple of years, I asked him, hey, do you still have that thing? And he said, yeah. And I said, hey, you should sell it to me. And he said, nah. But this thing is beautiful. It's red with a black pickguard. It's got a humbucker, 2 single coils, just like an 80s guitar should have. Maple neck and fretboard. And you know what? It's hard to find a picture of Greg Ginn playing one of these, and I don't remember. I just remember Lonnie King, one of my old bandmates, told me that Greg Ginn played a Roadstar, and for the life of me, I can't find a photo of him playing one. But Greg Ginn played a Roadstar too. And so back then in the 90s, when it wasn't cool to want one of these things, that made me feel okay about wanting one of these. So this thing is up on the website for $399. That's right. This thing is a classic. $399. Go on and get it. And they're taking offers. All right. So go check out rivercityguitars.com. Don't forget, hey, you know what else? If you want to sell something, give them a call, 509-818-7693, or send them an email, sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. Okay, now's the time when I remind you about the golden rule, and then we get into the episode. Okay, so you know the golden rule, right? Treat other people like you want to be treated. I'm paraphrasing, but just don't be a dick. It's very easy to be that, not a dick. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Oh, let's see. I can't hear you very well. How do I turn you up on my end? I've got to be able to, right? Oh, let's see. Let's try that.
Hello?
Oh, hell yes. There we go.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you for sticking it out with me there.
Oh, no, I mean, I do a podcast too. You know how that...
Now you know what sort of a professional system you're dealing with. How's it going?
Oh, it's about as good as can be expected in all this mess.
It's a crazy ass year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're just goes day by day, trying to stay positive, trying to, keep a good attitude and
How do you do that?
uh dancing alone. I do a lot of dancing alone.
Uh-huh.
Um Yoga, which I call hoe stretches. So I do my hoe stretches.
I'll, t- I'll tell my wife
Uh,
that she does a lot of hoe stretches.
yeah. And then yeah, trying to just make stuff, even if it doesn't. It's hard to do anything really serious, but I've had some luck making like goofy shit and fun shit that um you know, and yeah, just trying to seek out opportunities because they don't come to you nowadays. You have to really get out there and look for things to do and look for people to work for
Ain't that
because
a fact?
So yeah, those are most of how I try.
When you say make goofy shit, like what do you mean? Like make drink coasters out of old cans, or do you mean like music or like art or
Music, yeah. So
yeah?
like I'm I don't have like a really great studio set up at home, but I try to get some things done and um I made like a really dumb song called Peanut Butter. And I had to make
Sounds great to
video.
me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I did one and that went on the burger comp and my friend made a really funny video for it. And then I did another song called Garlic Bread Cheeseburger. So I was talking to this stripper from Australia and she was like, uh, never heard of garlic bread cheeseburger. And I was like, this you're crazy. That's the best. That's like the best cheeseburger because it's equal parts garlic bread, equal parts cheeseburger.
I mean, I've never heard of anyone doing that, but I recognized straight away what it was, and it sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's just garlic toast, but with a cheeseburger in the middle. I don't know. I'm Midwestern, so Midwestern people always take foods that already exist and combine them with other foods.
Yeah,
That's like kind of our thing. That's what we're good at. So
chili
like taco
mac.
pizza, yeah, chili mac, things like that. Yeah.
Tell me about your garlic bread stees. Like, what do you do about that? Do you get a garlic bread loaf and put a burger on that, like a French dip style, or do you make
You get
garlic bread
Tex,
by toasting and buttering
yeah,
and
yeah. You get the butter on the Texas toast, then you put some garlic, some Italian seasoning on it. Then or you can buy the pre-made frozen loaf. That's also a weapon if someone breaks in your house, and
yeah?
you just bake that, and then you put the cheeseburger in the middle. It's simple. It's
I know
you
what I'm
just
doing tonight.
it'll it'll be really fucking good.
No, I mean it already is.
Yeah.
It already is.
I mean, I love cheeseburgers, so.
When was uh when was the last time you got to go play a show?
The last show that I played was in Sheffield, Alabama, at Dorm 11, which is a venue in Sheffield, Alabama. Um, and I think that was February 15th or 16th.
Did you have any idea it was going to be the last show of maybe the
God,
year?
no. God, no. Oh,
Fuck.
it's definitely the last show of the year for sure. No, no. I mean, if I was going to be my last show, I certainly wouldn't have played in Sheffield, Alabama.
Oh, any show's a good. I mean, any
Mm,
show's a fun show. It shows what you make it. I think, unless your life is. I've definitely played in front of some crowds where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get out of this one alive.
for sure, for sure. I think I always have a great attitude and it's fun for sure. And I'm never complaining when people come out to see us. But I would have raged a little bit more. I would have wanted a little bit more, because when you're playing for people in Sheffield, Alabama, they're kind of in awe / just kind of like absorbing everything that's happening because there's a lot of things happening when we're on stage. But when you're playing somewhere a little bit more hip and maybe a place you've been several more times, like Austin or,
Right.
New York or Memphis or Miami, they know what to expect. So they know how to kind of participate,
Right.
That's helped. But that was my last show.
I've never even heard of that town. Is it pretty small?
It's part of the Shoals.
Oh, okay.
So Muscle Shoals.
Is that where you're at now?
I mean, it's nobody's business where I live, but
I'm not asking for your address.
Yeah, no, I don't even like to say, but
Yeah.
Muscle Shoals and is in northern Alabama, and there's 4 cities that are part of the collective Shoals that kind of make one larger area, and that's Sheffield, Tuscumbia, Muscle Shoals, and Florence. And so Sheffield is part of the Shoals. It's one of the smaller cities in the Shoals, but it's still in the Shoals.
What is a shoal?
A shoal, I think, is kind of like a swamp.
Huh.
I think it's like a water. I think it's a water term of some sort.
I might be a little thick, but I always thought that Muscle Shoals was the name of a person until just like 5 years ago. Because you'd hear about all these records. Oh, they went down, recorded at Muscle Shoals. And I thought oh, we recorded our record at Robert Lang, like a studio that was named after a person,
No, Muscle Shoals has got 2 legendary studios, well, 3 kind of, within its area. It's got Fame, which was where Rick Hall, it's his second studio, but it's the one that really got them off the ground with like Etta James, Allman Brothers, Bobby Gentry, Clarence Carter, and then the Swampers, who played on all those records with Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett, and they were kind of the magic sauce. They were tired of his bullshit, so they went off and started another studio about 2 miles from Fame called Jackson Highway in an old coffin factory, and it's very small. But they started that so they could just kind of cut out the middleman, and then that was where Rod Stewart, the Rolling Stones, Leon Russell, Paul Simon, a bunch of people came down to just absorb some of the magic that exists in the area that I'm speaking of, and maybe I might live. But it's a magical place because there's a triangle, and I'm a lesbian, so I believe very strongly in triangles' power.
Yeah.
And you have Nashville, Memphis, and you have the Shoals. And in around that triangle, you have Tupelo, which was where Elvis was born. You have Mississippi, Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the blues was born. So you have this kind of crazy triangle that is responsible for most of the popular American music of the last century.
It's arguable
aside from Motown.
It's arguable that every important musical movement radiated out of that area.
Yeah, and I think there's a magic. Yeah, I think there's a synergy here for sure.
I've never spent much time in one place there. I've traveled through the South a lot, but I've always enjoyed to travel through it for its faults, its occasional faults. There are faults everywhere, aren't there?
Yeah, I think too, if you travel through the Midwest versus the South, it's very interesting because in the Midwest, all of the main roads go straight through town. And that's where I grew up. So we always had a main downtown strip, and that's the street that took you through town. Versus the South, where you kind of are taken on the outskirts of town. And there's no sidewalks. There's no sidewalks in like any southern cities. And there's sidewalks in every city in the Midwest. So I think people in the South aren't quite as hospitable and welcoming. And they don't kind of like to air out their shit as much as Midwesterns are like, come on down, It's a very different vibe. Yeah, it's just like mind your own business in the South, which is in some ways good when you're, a radical feminist like rock and roller, people mind their own fucking business. But yeah, it's in the Midwest, it's a little bit more. You want some cake? Come on in. I
uh,
couldn't imagine growing up as a child and not having a sidewalk. Like, there's no
right.
sidewalks in Nashville. There's no sidewalks uh, anywhere, any southern city. I mean, and it's just so bizarre. It's like, like that was my whole universe.
Do you
Was
think
that block?
do you
You
think it's
know?
because a lot of the homes that were, because I've spent some time in Nashville and I'm trying to imagine like the cities that were developed, like most of America was really developed after cars were invented, right? And so as soon
Mhm.
as cars were affordable or accessible by families, nobody wanted to walk anywhere. It made them seem low rent, right?
You know what I think it is? I think that it's because the South. Um, Whereas, okay, so you in the Midwest, you have the Mississippi River that goes straight through,
Mm,
and you have that in Memphis somewhat, but like, obviously, a lot of the richer and like higher end older homes are closer to the rivers in those towns. And so you would build out like your downtown from like the river. So you would have like that whole kind of situation going there versus like the South as a whole, where it's like more like there aren't as many rivers and there aren't as many kind of central locations in terms of townships. And a lot of towns are actually younger than the towns in the Midwest, like Chicago and Davenport and St. Louis. So, like, I mean, Atlanta's not that old of a city.
right.
So, I think it has something to do with that. I also think it has to do with people in the South wanting to live in the country, and just have these giant big yards and just kind of have like the amount of space that I would have if I did live in northern Alabama would be pretty excessive for just the amount of
Right.
money that I paid. Um, a crazy amount. And I think, yeah, I just think people, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me not knowing the South and living here for 15 years of my life to not think that people did that on purpose so that people just couldn't walk around freely in your neighborhood. I know
Right.
it sounds shitty. I know it sounds shitty, but I do. I sincerely think that because people are weird in the South.
People are weird everywhere. People are fucking weird,
It's
right?
true. Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
yeah, I don't doubt that one bit. There's no sidewalks in my little town. I lived most of my adult life in Seattle, right? I moved to New York 5 years ago to Brooklyn. They got they're all sidewalks there. But
Oh, yeah.
that's not my speed. I can't. It just is a that's a lot to it's a lot of sensory activity there.
Well, yeah. And I also don't understand. Like, that's why I like Philly better than New York. No offense. But I like
Mm,
Philly because there's more space on the
yeah.
sidewalk. The sidewalk's
Oh
a bigger
yeah.
sidewalk. So even if, but in New York, I still feel like the sidewalks are pretty small. And you're just like packed in on this shit. Yeah, I like Philly. You got a little bit more room to spread out, but you get all that East Coast city like diversity and food and kind of toughness and charm. But
Yeah.
that to be said, Philly has some very rough spots.
Sure.
I've definitely been a little more sketched out in Philly than I have in New York. I feel like.
Yeah, it's funny, New York growing up, I always heard all these stories about how dangerous New York was, and then, in the 90s it started to really taper off, and now Seattle is more dangerous than New York.
I couldn't get over how many fucking rats were in Seattle. Uh, I've never seen. I was down. I don't know where. What
Pioneer
part?
Square probably.
Belltown.
Oh,
Bell.
sure. Yeah.
And yeah, we were just like walking around, and I mean, I've seen rats in Chicago. I've seen rats in New York, whatever. But like, there were tons of
Yeah.
rats in Seattle, and I was just like, this is fucking gross. Like, I can't. I don't like rats. I don't fucking like it. That's why.
Oh, they're
But
nasty.
they're fucking nasty. And then their butts jiggle when they walk. You know?
Their butts jiggle.
Yeah, they jiggle when they rock. Ugh. But here we have possums, which are like giant rats with alligator teeth. You know,
Right.
so take what you will.
Right.
But it's easier to shoo a possum away than it is a rat. But yeah,
How long has the lineup of your band been secure? Has it been the same members for? It's 10 years. Is it 10 years?
yeah, we've been a band for 10 years. I am the only original member of the band.
Uh-huh.
The lineup that kind of there was an original lineup, and then there was another lineup that kind of we were like, we could do this seriously, we could tour, and that lineup disbanded about 4 years ago, and then I decided to never have another lineup and just be the sole focus of the band and have women that I played with and hired to come play with me, which you know is a different experience, but it's a lot less stressful in terms of
Right.
who's the boss. Tony Danza. I'm the
Right.
boss.
Your your TD.
Yeah, I'm fucking Tony Danza.
Did you get members all out of Nashville?
You know, Nashville is a great place to have an alternating all female lineup because it is hard to maintain just having all females, especially because my music is really dynamic and it's not all heavy, it's not all garagey, it's not all, there's a lot of different punk or metal. I just don't write the same song twice. So, like, it's hard to find bitches who can step into that role and are comfortable and own it. So, yeah, like, I really got by pretty well in Nashville, but then some of the girls I started meeting on tour were I do what I call poaching, where I'd run into a band on tour and I'd like their drummer, I'd like their bass player, and I'd be like, "What's your Instagram? I'd like to keep in touch." And then when it came time, do so most of the time I'll have girls flying from Texas, I'll have girls flying from Seattle, I'll have girls flying from New York, and we'll have one rehearsal and go on road. But they know that their obligation in that process is to be very rehearsed prior to coming,
Sure.
and some of them aren't, and they found out very quickly I don't appreciate it. So then they don't do that again.
Well, if you want a gig, you should show up ready to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, we're not, I'm still not paying them very much. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like, yeah, LG, I'll do 3 weeks, whatever, and it's like, you know, I'm not going to say how much I pay my girls, but it ain't union wage.
Right.
They're
Right.
very kind, they're very kind.
I mean, I've been on plenty of tours where I didn't make, any money, or
No, I don't do that anymore. And I don't, you know, I mean, I go on tour and don't make any money, but I don't do that to the girls I play with. Like, that's it. If I get home, God forbid, and I didn't have the money to pay my girls, which hasn't ever happened, thankfully, um, something getting pawned,
right.
because they're not going to fucking put up with my bullshit if I don't pay them. And yeah, I do. I know what people think when they see me. They say, "Oh, LG, she must be so balanced and so easygoing." No, I'm a crazy bitch.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what? It seems to be working out just fine from where I'm sitting
Well, thank you.
because
Thank you.
I
Can you
every
see me up here? Can you see me up here at the top of Shit Mountain? Can you see me?
uh
Hello.
I can't hear you from all the way up there. I love the last record.
Thank you.
I pre-ordered it, and it's sitting next to my turntable still. It's just like it's one that is never goes into the rack.
Thank you. That means so much.
And I was introduced to your music by Scott Marceau,
Angel.
who also introduced us however, like introduced us. So I can't believe that. I think it was only last summer um, that I completely fucked up and didn't go see you play in Hudson, New York, which is where I live.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't remember what was going on, but I didn't go. And
Supertone Festival.
how how was that? I really like that venue. Is really cool.
Yeah, it's owned by Melissa, who played in Hole. She's a
Mm-hmm.
bass player. So that was cool because I got to meet her, and
Yeah.
I was just like, "What?" Because Celebrity Skin, that album was huge for young rocker babes like me. But it was the thing with we played actually two festivals in upstate New York recently, and one of them is like charges as much as Supertown Festival, but there's nowhere for the artist to stay. There's no real like
Right.
money to pay people. And you wonder to yourself, like, all this money has got to be going to someone. It's not the bands, but that one I kind of just play for the sake of, being in that lineup and being amongst those other bands. But Supertone is a real fucking treat. And the dudes who throw it are really fucking nice. They take care of bands, they pay bands really well, and they put a lot of heart and soul into doing that festival and trying to make something happen up there. So I have a lot of admiration for them, um and just the energy and the creativity. And it's hard because you want to put on a festival. That doesn't mean you're a good business person. That doesn't mean you're a good promoter. That doesn't
Right.
mean you're good. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
want to be
So
an
like,
astronaut.
yeah, so it's taking him time to build it up but last year, I mean, you had BB Us. It was all female or female fronted bands pretty much
Oh, really?
in the entire, yeah, but they didn't like blow a horn about it. But for the most part, I think Felice Brothers played, but that was about it. It was a lot of all female bands. So yeah, no, I think and the venue was awesome. They had fresh fucking bread. When's the last time you played a music festival that has some fresh fucking bread?
Never had fresh bread at a music festival. I had a lot of
Yeah,
Wonder Bread.
yeah. So it's a great fucking place, and I also just thought it was really beautiful up there. I get why people live there. It's really pretty.
Yeah. No, we love it up here. We have a tiny place that we have barely been to this year in Brooklyn. That's like a rent controlled place because my wife works down there regularly. But being up here is great, and there's a lot of really cool shit going on like that.
Yeah.
Because of its proximity to the city. There's a lot of people like us who get sick of the city's shit and they want to be close to the city. They want to be able to tap into that energy, but they want to get out. And did you go to Woodstock while you were up here?
I've never been to Woodstock. Woodstock, I don't think.
It's also really cool, and there's some cool stuff going on there, and there are a lot of characters floating around there. And there is there's the barn, where you can go see shows there. Uh,
Okay.
and I saw who did I see? I saw Steve Earle there. I saw we saw Loretta Lynn there.
Nice.
No, 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 no. We didn't see Loretta Lynn. Uh, how how could I say Loretta Lynn? We saw
Emmylou Harris, Lucinda Williams.
no, no, no,
Uh,
no. I know that you're a fan because I remember seeing that you went and saw her recently. The Delta
Tanya.
Tanya Tucker. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. We saw her play there, and if you're not familiar with the venue, it is it's absolutely incredible. It holds maybe if it holds 100 people, I would be surprised.
Nice.
And it's a super intimate. It's got so much history. Also, there's not a
Mhm.
bad seat in the house, and the sound is
Mhm.
dynamite. There's just there's cool stuff like that going on up here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
When this shit clears up, you guys should go and play there.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be coming to upstate more for sure. Um, yeah, there's lots of little gems up there,
Yeah.
and hopefully we get to play at Supertone. Hopefully we'll get to play at Multatia and all that soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully all that stuff will happen next year.
What a bananas year. Like last November, last December, when we started hearing about this shit, I think we all just sort of assumed, like, oh, well, the smart people in charge are gonna, as always, they're just gonna cut it off at the
No,
pass, right? They're gonna cut it off at the
no.
pass like the bird flu, like the
Well, I
H4N1 or
mean,
whatever the fuck it's called.
that's one really, I mean, we have control as a society. We have power in the situation. If we
Sure.
wear masks and we social distance, the hot spots will go down and we will be able to go back to a quasi normal until there's some sort of um, vaccine or really good treatment for it. But we, as a society, are choosing to rely on a fucking booger of a fucking person
That's
and
a
his
that's a
booger
nice assessment.
army to fucking try and what the fuck is that asshole gonna fucking do? He can even run a fucking casino in Atlantic City. He's gonna fucking do something? Like the fuck off. No, it's ape shit. But I think yeah. I mean, I was about to go to South by until like a week before South by. I was still down
Right.
because I think that's our reputation is Thelma and Sleaze riders on the storm. Like they're if anybody's going, those bitches are going. But then it's just after shit just started and like South by canceled all the official stuff and like shit just kept getting worse and I was just like, dog, I think we actually like should take this shit seriously and be a good example because I think this shit is actually fucked up. And yeah, it's interesting too how it affects certain people differently. And so that's something that's really sketchy and I just don't think it should be messed with. Um so
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not trying to get sick.
no.
I know I'm gonna die someday, but I'm not trying to die tomorrow or next week.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't necessarily die, it's still a very um they don't know what the long-term effects of this shit is. So
Right.
yeah, I don't want to tango with that. So I've been in my house for 5 months and that's a long time to be in your house. Very long time.
That's a that's a lot of hoe stretching.
There's a lot of hose stretches. That's a lot of dancing by myself. That's a lot of playing guitar. It's a lot of doing my own podcast, and yeah, it's a lot of FaceTimes.
How many songs have you written this year as a result of all this?
I
Um,
mean, I kind of write. Well, that record that you have, "Fuck Mary Kill," I finished writing those songs 2 years ago. So I had written a lot in the time between that record and this all happening anyway. So I already had like a bunch of songs. Um, so I haven't really actually written that many. I've maybe written like because it's hard. Like I said, it's very hard. And every time I put out a record, it's harder because I don't ever really blow up, and I don't really. It's just such a. It's always feels like such a push to get people to listen and pay attention because there is so much now that is grappling for people's attention and originality isn't really that appreciated anymore.
right.
People really like shit that sounds like other shit, I guess. But that's marketing. That's the industry end of it. And what I do isn't part of the industry and marketing. So yeah, it's just it takes a lot. So and even now add this uncertainty and no real, you know, like how the fuck that just adds a whole nother level. So being creative right now is really hard. And yeah, I'm just now starting to because I've kind of set a date and figured out the logistics to like do some studio stuff, but like I'm just now figuring that out, because it's just like it's a lot. It's a lot to get your mind in that zone and want to do it.
When you make records, do you go into the studio with the last touring band you had, or do you pick a whole set of musicians that are completely independent of a touring band that you might go out with?
No, I still try to make all of the records all women as well. So, and they're all women I play with. Now honestly, that's actually one of the perks of it is because I do have, 4 bass players, 3 drummers, I can kind of go through my songs because they are so stylized and genrely kind of different. A song like Long Cold Woman isn't necessarily the same kind of drumming you would want on a song called, Candy Ann so it's like for Fuck Mary Kill, I had 3 different drummers and all female. They were all females
Yeah.
that I play with. And so Snowflake did all kind of the Charlie Watts like pocket garagey drums. And my friend Tiffany did Something I Can Touch because she's like a Hal Blaine like drummer. Like she can do that shit in her sleep and she did a wonderful job. And my older drummer Chase, she did the heavies because she's really good at heavies because she's obnoxious. And so that's been the perk. And then yeah, having being able to pick and choose and play off of people's strengths. That's been like the best outcome of having a very changing lineup is getting
Yeah.
to say, hey, you be the best at this song, or oh, I want to get you in here. So that's how Fuck Mary Kill was made, and I think it turned out really cool because of that.
Oh, it's fucking great. You mentioned Seattle when you were talking about poaching players. Who did you do you have someone playing with you from Seattle?
I was supposed to on the South by run that we were about to do.
Oh shit.
I was gonna use the drummer from Thunder Pussy,
Oh, rad.
Ruby. Yeah, I had seen her play. We played with Thunder Pussy a few times, and she was kind of the highlight for me. So I hit her up to do the South by run, and she was down. So that sucked. She'd already booked the flight, and actually had a really tight, really dope bass player for her to play with. Both kind of like aggro chicks, So it would have been like pretty nasty, nasty. I'm very disappointed that didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Hey, what sparked you to pick up the guitar? Like, was there do you remember a moment, or was it just like a feeling like I know I want to do this. I want to sing, and I want to be in a band.
Well, what I do, as much as I really put a lot of energy into learning the guitar and trying to be a better singer and writing songs, because like that's really important to me, and I wish that people focused on that aspect of my persona more. But I think I also just love performing, and I also love entertaining people. And so my grandpa is a really great guitar player, was a really great guitar player, and he kind of would do this thing where he'd sit me down in the living room and he'd play me songs, and I was so captivated. I was just like, I just was like, "You've got my attention, Gramps." Like, and I'm a wild little girl. And I was like, "That's just a pretty cool idea. If I play guitar and I sing songs, like people are gonna have to watch me. I like that."
Was he a
And so,
character when he would sing to you? Would he make songs up, or
oh
was he singing
yeah,
songs, popular songs?
well, he's a bluegrass player, so I mean, bluegrass music it's really good for kids to hear. All the songs he would sing. I mean, Hank Snow, like, right on town, I'm on a time to time, and then I'm been a night, I'm moving on. There we go. That's not that far from a fucking Barney song. And yeah, like, just beautiful songs, and he was such a great picker. He had these beautiful hands, and he's just a handsome man, and just loved watching him play. And it was part of the deal.
Yeah.
You go to your grandpa's, you get to ride around in his truck and watch him smoke cigarettes and yell at people, and then he goes home and he drinks beers and he plays guitar and you watch. It was very nice.
Did you
But I
pick up
just
the guitar and have the chance to pick with him before he passed?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was
Oh, I love that.
yeah, I was playing. He would go as he got older. He would go to high rises, like senior citizens high rises, and they would have bluegrass jams on Sunday. And me and my sister would come along. My sister played the mandolin, and I would, sit back on my guitar, and we'd just be behind my grandpa, just hammering on the G, hammering on the C. It was frustrating because I just I'm not good at playing other people's music at all. And I can't. It's so, every time I've done a cover band, or my grandpa would sit there and say, okay, Toots, here you go. I just be like, okay, or come back in 1 hour, and he'd come back in 1 hour and say, what you got, Toots? I'd be like, ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. He'd just be like, let's not even close to it. And I'd be like, well, gave it a shot, Gramps. I'm not gonna lie. But then I started writing his riff kind of sound like Metallica. And I was like, man, we'll chop it up on drums. And I kind of wrote this whole song called Lightning Strip. So, yeah, sorry about it. He was just like, shake his head and walk away. But yeah, so yeah, I would do the rhythm. And I would play along with him on rhythm, but I never learned any of the, I think I learned, maybe the intro to Wildwood Flower and, a couple, I learned the most important, that ding, 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 important shit. But I never was, a fast picker or anything, but I'd strum along with him. It was fun.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but 20 years ago, I went to Nashville for the first time, and it was an off night. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. We had a night off on tour, and someone said, first thing you should do is go to the Bluebird and see if there's anything going on. And if nothing's going on, go to the Station Inn. There's a bluegrass jam. And we ended up at the Station Inn, and it absolutely blew my mind. And that whole area of town was not what it is now. There wasn't a fucking Fry Boots across the street with a back line and a stage or whatever. Like, that shit is some uptown shit.
Fuck Fry Boots. Fuck Fry Boots. Fuck you, Fry Boots. You fucking lied to me. Go on.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to bring up any bad blood.
Fuck Fry Boots.
Okay. Fuck Fry Boots.
We played this festival last year, and they said we were supposed to get free boots, right? They asked us for all our sizes. They asked us what kind of boots we want. And we were like, we don't get to play these commercial bullshit festivals very often. We're like, we're going to get free boots? It's amazing. And we get there, and I show up, and I'm like, where's our fucking boots? And the bitch is like, oh, actually, we, run out. And just the look on her face, you could tell she was fucking lying. I was like, but y'all said we were going to get free boots. We're not getting any boots? And then, it was just, I don't know. Why would you say that and go through all this trouble? We had to go through, we had to fill out online applications.
It'd be like if you showed up and you were like, well, we said we were going to play, but we're just going to hang out on stage and take questions.
We still got paid a lot of money, but we were also supposed to get some fucking boots.
I like money, though.
I wouldn't even cared, but the fucking girls I play with, you know what I mean? We go through 3 pairs of boots a year.
That's part of the appeal.
Tour. Yeah, our boots are fucked. So it was going to be nice to get a nice pair of boots. So fuck Fry Boots.
It's not like they were going to buy you boots. They fucking make them.
Fry Boots. Fuck Fry Boots.
Okay. You heard it here first. That whole area down there sure seemed like, 20 years ago, seemed like the kind of place where you could probably get stabbed or cop dope or something.
I can tell you, I lived in Nashville for 13 years. From 2005 till 2017. And every neighborhood that was like that, you'd be like, it got to the point where, I would walk down the street and I'd be like, oh, that'll never last. Who the fuck's going to go to that? Who the fuck wants that shit? And they just keep showing up, these assholes that wanted that shit,
$8 cupcake or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that'll never last, And then, the Gulch, I was like, yeah, that was crazy. I was like, he's going to want to come down here and bullshit out of the way, fucking crap, fucking sketchy as fuck. And then it was like, plop, Nashville, it was just crazy. That's why I had to, and I lived very close to Nashville. I could be there by lunch. And that's where my band is. That's where we record. That's where we're a local band for shows. But in terms of actually living in Nashville proper, it just became too. It just doesn't. It's not anything like it was, and it's not. The people who live there now are just terrible people to be around. And yeah, I take it after one of our shows we played recently. I had two different groups of women come up to me. Right, I had these girls in like $200 Harley shirts, like fucking perfectly feathered, fucking dirty hair. Like you're like,
Right.
okay, bitch, like that's a chemical. You washed it. Like beautiful boots, everything perfect. Like rocker bill, And actually, I was like, they were like, you guys, and I was like, where are y'all from? It's like, I just moved here from Seattle, and then this other bitch was like, I just moved here from LA, and I was just like, why? Why? Because you couldn't hack it in Seattle? You couldn't hack it in LA? Like, what do you think Nashville's gonna do for you, bitch? Oh, you can walk around and look like a poser and no one's gonna care because everyone here's a fucking poser. Okay. And then I had these other girls come up, this group of three girls. They were wearing their underwear on the outside of their clothes.
What?
They had a whole pail full of cookie dough. They were eating it raw right out of the bucket. And they were like, LG. And these girls came up while I was talking to these other girls who were like, so cool, so happy. LG, we came all the way from St. Louis to see you play tonight. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, bitches, give me some of that cookie dough. And I was like, y'all look crazy as hell. And they were like, we are crazy as hell. We're from St. Louis. I was like, you gotta be crazy. But yeah. And these other girls were like pissed because I kind of gave them a cold shoulder. I was like, these are real fucking bitches. You know what I mean? They live in Seattle. What do you know about that? You don't know about that. You don't know nothing. But yeah, Nashville's full of wankers and posers now that I just don't want to have to. I don't want to have to interact with. So, but I have my places still. I have some of my old my spots, and I could still hang out with my friends, and it's still nice to go there and get my business done. And there's no other hard rock type bands there, so I'm a big fish in a very small pond.
That's good. And it's, I don't know, it's there's still some of the same stuff going on there, and there's so much history there.
Is there?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I got to play the Ryman, and that was a treat for me, even though it was the worst show maybe I've ever played in my life.
The Ryman's beautiful.
Yeah, it's such a cool spot. And so when you do something like, not every town has a landmark venue like that where virtually every superstar has played.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think in that regard, it's a cool. Of course, I never lived there. I was just again passing through. So
yeah,
it was exciting for a looky-loo like me.
Yeah, it's exciting for look-de-loos. Yeah, for me, it was a little more traumatic. It was traumatizing because I moved to a city and I really liked it and I really loved the people and I loved the character, and then it all just happened really fast. It was
Right.
a totally different place with totally different people, and they shut down a bunch of shit that was made it genuine and gave it character, and then they marketed everything else to be a tourist attraction, and
Right.
so it was just kind of like, ugh, I'm out of here.
Did you grow up in a small town?
Well, I've grown up a lot of places, but I was born outside of Chicago, and then I lived in Kentucky for 6 or 7 years, and then I moved back to. It's south of Chicago. It's a small town. I've lived in a lot of mostly small towns.
Yeah.
And then I lived in Iowa for high school and rehab.
Iowa.
Which doesn't get any smaller than that, really.
Yeah. Are you a sober person?
Yeah, I've been sober for 8 years in September.
Oh, good for you. I am also a sober person.
Yeah. I occasionally I will have a shotgun of weed once or twice a year if the mood is perfect. But I don't pull the joint. Someone has to blow it in my mouth, and I just get a slight body high, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I only do that twice a year. It has to be very special occasion.
Yeah, I can't. I thought 4 years ago, I thought that because my life was so great that I could drink again, and I was sorely
Yeah, no,
mistaken.
yeah. I did that. I was sober for 10 years, and then I drank for a year, and then I got sober again for 8 years. So, yeah. I've been sober a lot longer than I have been drunk because when I drink, I mean, this is how I am sober. You know what I mean? Most people don't believe me that I'm sober. They'll be like, "Are you sober?" I'd be like, "Haven't had a drink since 2012." You know, and they're like, "What?" You know,
right.
but I just don't. I don't need it, and it feels too good to me to have those things. It feels because I'm anxious. I have anxiety. So if I get that release and that relaxing, like, booze, I want it all the time. you know, everything all the time.
I don't even want it all the time. I just want it all.
Yeah, I want it
Unfortunately.
all the time. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, if I started drinking now, probably within 3 months, I'll probably steal a car.
yeah. You'd be homeless. You would, you know, everyone would hate you. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not.
I'm just, a couple bad decisions away from that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, and
Good, good for you.
I'm a blackout drinker. So you
Same.
know,
That's a
and it's
bad scene.
amazing what people, because I'm LG, so they're like, "Oh, LG, you're just old crazy ass motherfucker." They'll let me do anything.
Right.
And they'll take me seriously when I'm blacked out. And I'll be like, if I had an off switch, no problem. If I could get drunk on a boat with my best friend Amaretta every day, no problems at all because we look out for each other. But that's not the case. There's too
Right.
many variables. I certainly wouldn't be able to. People are always like, how do you do it? How do you tour 100 shows a year and put out records and make videos, do all this shit and not lose any equipment and get through all this craziness? And like, there's just absolutely no fucking way I would be able to do it if I drank. None.
Right.
None at all. There's
Yeah.
just no.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I don't think I would be able to tie my shoes in the morning. I was
Yeah.
also a morning puker.
Yeah. No. It's not a good way to be.
That's a bad look.
Yeah. Now look at you doing podcast interviews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, were you in Kentucky when you started your very first band?
No, I was very young when I was in Kentucky. My first band uh, was in high school in Iowa. It
Uh-huh.
was, and it was all girls.
It
I've
was.
always, yeah, I've always wanted to just play with other women.
It's always been that way.
I had one project when Thelma and The Sleaze took a break after my old lineup broke up. I was kind of like, all right, maybe I'll try playing with some dudes. And the only caveat was that they had to play shirtless with vest, leather vest, because like if I'm gonna be sexual, like you have to be sexual too. But I did that for like 3 months, and then I was like, ugh, this is too easy, and men are just. I just didn't have as much fun. And there's a novelty to it, and there's something very powerful about being on stage with other women, and there's a trust there that I just really love, and I think is very powerful. So I did try it, but my first band was all girls, and it was called terrible names. I'm not even gonna say, but we recorded an album when we were in high school, and it was pretty good. I don't own a copy, but somebody does.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think we recorded a Cakewalk.
fuck, in Cakewalk the software.
Yeah, Cakewalk.
Get a
That's how
little
old.
little perspective. God, I didn't know my dick from a doornail in high school. Like, there's no way I could have started a band and written songs
See, that's
and
what
put it
guitar was,
together.
though. Like guitar for me, I never was like, oh, I didn't even start playing leads till like Thelma and The Sleaze. Like I was a rhythm player, and I had always just wanted to write songs. I just love writing songs. So it's never been like I just as soon as I got a guitar, I was just like, I'm gonna write songs. I want to be creative. I just want to make stuff, you know. So it was never like I want to be like a crazy shredder. I want to be like that. Just kind of came out of just, writing the songs and wanting the songs to have what they need,
Right.
versus like any real desire to like show off. And so, yeah, like I've always written songs. I'm probably at this point written 1,000. And there's so many projects and things that I put up that nobody ever listens to or sees, because I probably write at least 2 or 3 a week. Even if they're silly or stupid and no one ever hears them.
Right.
I just write. I love guitars. I just it's just always, yeah. I've got a lot of them, and I love them all.
Do you think that I mean, surely you have been met with, if not resistance, like the all of the fucking stereotype comments about girl bands or girl being good for girls or this, all the regular horse shit that,
Well, the first problem with that statement is that uh, I'm not a girl. I'm a full ass grown ass woman.
of
So
course,
I like to say all female band, um, and that's even up for discussion now, because what does it mean to be a female? That takes many definitions nowadays. But we're all cisgendered female women for the most part. I wouldn't be against playing with non cisgendered people, but I haven't had that opportunity yet. But yeah, the most annoying thing about what I do and how we're described as a band, because yes, for the most part, you kind of I had a girlfriend for a long time who was in another band, and she was a punk rocker, ultimate like punk rock party girl, and she was like, I'm not really a feminist. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not like, I don't call myself a feminist. And I'm like, well, every time you get on stage, you're making a political statement. You know what I mean? Whether you think that or not, just as a woman, to be disruptive and to be loud and to be aggressive in a public space is still taboo in some places.
right,
So you, whether you want to or not, acknowledge that you have to. That's why as a band, we've never, for as long as I can help it, taken any pictures from like looking up angles. And like,
right,
I don't crawl around on the stage and flash my giant G everywhere. Like, if if we're being performative, if we're putting on a show, I'm always gonna climb and get as high as possible. I'm not gonna get down on my knees. And some of the girls in my band, they'll make that mistake, and I'll just tell them like, we don't do that. We're not. That's not what this is. And we, as much as I hate having to think about those things, and I used to do those things a lot more. The longer I did it, I realized that people were looking to me because I raised the bar in terms of what all female bands are expected to do on stage. And so I had to kind of take that seriously and be more aware and be more intentional about how I perform and what it means to be a rock and roll front woman. You don't have to all that bullshit and like crawl around and flash a giant G and look rapeable. Like,
right.
I think we've moved past that. It definitely got us through the door in the 90s to wear baby dresses and look heroin chic, but I think we've moved past the need. I just want to be, on stage, dress sharp, loud as fuck, raucous as fuck, just like Z Top's allowed to do, and nobody blinks an eye.
Of course.
So that's kind of been, but yeah, and I also hate that people automatically they won't do any research, they won't listen to our albums, they won't watch any of our shows. They'll just write articles about us and like trashy Southern rock, trashy raunchy, trashy, and it's just like there. I say that shit on stage as an equalizer to like, and I use kind of satire and things like that, like any performer would. But like our music, like isn't the actual subject matter isn't that fucking raunchy. It's
Right.
just a means of like, kind of everybody can relate to the sex, and everybody can relate to, wanting to be tough and wanting to be, and have fun and be a fool. But like at the end of the day, like if you actually listen to our shit, if you actually watch our shows, we're very fucking tight. We take shit very seriously. And
Yeah.
our songs are very genuine, and I write from a very genuine place about shit that like matters to me, you know. But that's kind of the most annoying. People want to take that shit at face value, which is why I have to, you know, kind of be DIYs, because every time anyone's come into the fold with money or opportunities, they'll be like, "Oh, you bitches are like so hot and like raucous and like sexy hot babes like rock and roll," and you're just like, I can't trust you to like
People
represent my
still
band
like talk to you like that?
all the time. Yeah, yeah, and it's just like you just don't get it. You just don't get it, and it's
Right.
as much as I entertain people and I put on a show and I, you know, like to fucking cut up, like what I do, I take it very seriously. Just like Dolly says, it really does cost a lot to look this cheap. It really does, both monetarily, emotionally, uh, yeah, physically. It just costs a lot. But yeah, even we got written up in like a feminist magazine, and they still called like they were described our new album as reeking of sex. You know, and it's just like, what does that have to do with the fucking like? What is that really like? Like, why are you sexualizing me right now? Like, that's my choice. When I want to sexualize me, I sexualize me. Nobody else gets to do that. You know, very interesting. But yeah, it's a whole it's a whole thing, and I guess you could not think about it and just kind of walk blindly through it. But
Do you do you
I
think
put
that there's an element of, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, or you have, or you are gender fluid, or however you identify, as if you if you put yourself on a stage, you're susceptible to being objectified automatically, like in some
that's when I
unfortunate
when
ways?
well, and when I want to be, I mean, you know, people people can be turned on my shows because I want you to be turned on if I'm doing it right, if I'm having a good day, if the rock and
Right.
roll's good, if the amps are good. Yeah, those are one of my three goals is to turn you on. But that's for me to say when I want to do that. When I want to sit down and have an interview and talk about my art and my work, that's
Sure.
what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about, you know, shit that doesn't matter, you know. And I want to talk about all the shit that gets me on that fucking stage, you know.
Sure.
And I want to, you know, I want that. I think you have to. I think that's in any relationship, whether it's with an artist or anything. Like, you know, respect is the first, you know, the first thing you should have in
Of
any
course.
relationship. You know, whether that's the garbage man or the fucking crazy dyke on stage, like, you know, going balls out. Like, that's you should always have respect. So I don't think, you know, yeah, I want people to be a little scared. I want people to be a little turned on. I want people to be a little inspired, you know, because it is rock and roll is meant to be sexy, you know, but it's sexy when I say it is. Just like if I want to walk around topless, they're this my tits aren't sexual objects until I say they're sexual objects. You know what I mean? And when I say, okay, my now I want to get my titties sucked, I want to get my titties sucked. When I say I want to walk around shirtless because that's my right, because these are bags of fat on my chest that just look different than the shit you got on your chest. It's nothing sexual about it, you know. So that's, I mean, maybe that's horseshit, maybe that's crazy, but that's how I feel about it, you know.
Is it in terms of like playing your last show, you said you played in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Is it different to have an all-female lineup play there than if you were playing in Austin? Like, what's the vibe when you roll into a small town and play a show? Is it, I mean, you're probably not playing the Jockey Sports Bar right off the bat,
Oh, we played every kind of bar. We
right?
played everywhere, you know, and that is something that I think as a band over the last 10 years we haven't gotten enough credit for is we do not give a fuck. We'll play anywhere to any motherfucker, and we won't change a goddamn thing. You know
Yeah,
what I
good.
mean? And we've kind of we've paved the way for a lot of queer bands in the South to be able to tour and to be able to be taken seriously. No, and there's a fucking difference, and there's a threshold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, even when we played up in upstate, I mean, the first time the sound guy was completely disrespectful to me. He was a complete fucking asshole and sexist as fuck. But you know what? I played that fucking show. I tore the fucking roof off of it, and then when it was over, I told the fucking dudes, I said, if that guy's here next time he's here, I'm not playing. He's a fucking asshole, and
Right.
he doesn't deserve to be running sound and with bands that aren't, And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you a show. If I say I'm gonna play and you give me a check, I'm gonna give you a show. But I'm always gonna tell you, how I feel about it, even on stage. I mean, when we played for 3,000 people last year in South Carolina, I was like, thank you for taking time out on a Sunday from shopping for repurposed mason jars at the flea market to join us here today. Like, because it was an Americana festival. I'm just gonna say the obvious thing here. Y'all don't even know what the fuck's about to happen to you. But yeah, and bless their heart for putting us on this bill and feeding us. That was really kind of them, but they did it for a reason. If someone invites me to play somewhere, they did it for a fucking reason. They wanted to ruffle some feathers. They wanted to, shake things up. Now, if I beg for a fucking show because we don't have a night off and I got to play at a fucking sports bar in, Wilmington for fucking 6 people because otherwise we're fucking not going to have gas to get to the next place, like, I'm not going to be as antagonizing. You know what I mean? But I'm still going to give you the show,
At its core, as rock and roll is also confrontational, right? I mean, it's like there should always be.
If you're doing it right.
That's what I think, yeah.
You should be a little fucking scared of me. You should be a little turned on by me. And you should want to be me. Those are your 3 goals. Sometimes you get 1. Sometimes you get 2. Sometimes on a real good night, usually in Austin or Portland, New York, you get all 3, But yeah, no. It's if you're doing it right, it's your obligation to use your art, and use your platform, I think, to fucking to speak your truth and to let people in. And I think now more than ever, when people can tailor make their entire existence revolving around their phone, it's that much more jarring when they see something like that. And when you do come out and just no holds barred, do your fucking thing. Like, I think it's even more powerful. And like I said, I think at this point, my fans have an expectation. The people who book us have an expectation. And even on a bad night, we're still 100. You know what I mean? Yeah. On a good night, we're 150. But on a bad night, we're still the best band you'll see all year, in my opinion. That's what I'm trying to do. Even if I can't fucking talk and, my neck is cocked sideways out of pain and the amp's cutting it out. Like, I'm still going to give you a fucking show. Yeah, but, I mean, when we get to places like Austin or Portland or Chicago or somewhere where there is, like, obviously more people that are into what we do and are excited and treat me like the queen I am, it is very sweet. And it makes it even sweeter because we, like I said, we don't just play those places. We play everywhere.
Right.
And not a lot of bands do that. So I think the smaller towns appreciate it when you do come through because they're like, oh, you are got to do this. And I was like, I sure don't. But I'm still an asshole. I still like to raise hell. I still like to fucking shake things up in places where it's not appropriate, Like, that's how I kind of get off sometimes,
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. So
I guess being sober, you can work your way out of them a little more smoothly, too, if you ever need to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, you're in my house. If I'm on stage, and I'm being paid to be there, like, this is my house. And I'm going to fucking, do my thing, and I have gotten in trouble for saying things. I'm banned in Lawrence, Kansas, and that's fine. I fuck Lawrence, Kansas. I don't need to go there anyways.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Lawrence from the city, not from a venue, from the city.
Well, there's only one venue in the city, but yeah, we're banned from playing in that venue in Lawrence, Kansas. And actually one of my fans went in there wearing one of our shirts, and they told them like, "Oh, you know that band's not allowed to play here now."
Really?
They take it.
They
take
used
it
to
very
have a
serious.
good little independent record store. You should go do an in-store there just to fucking spite them.
I don't know. You know, like I said, it's like when you play places like that in Sheffield, you know, different, really small places. It's like I don't have anything to prove. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna make my fucking name in Lawrence, fucking Kansas. You know, and I'm doing you a fucking favor being here. Like, you know, that's it. This is a Wednesday night, baby. We're not playing in fucking St. Louis on a Wednesday. We're playing on a Thursday. So you're stuck with us. You know, let's make the most of it. But yeah, no, it's just like any job. Sometimes you have bad days and you are not in the fucking mood, you know, and something happens in Lawrence and you get in a fight with some dude who's obviously on steroids. But yeah, I think too that's been a thing in my career with men presenting me with aggression and me matching that aggression in a way that is like, you know, because I'm very nice and I'm very, you know, and to say I've probably played 2,000 shows is probably, it might be undercutting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At this point. So it's like, if I get banned in one place out of 2,000 places, I don't really give a shit, you know, Lawrence, Kansas. But yeah, if a dude's gonna get in my face is also going to be in that face, because I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of bikers that come to see us. So if anybody wants to get if anybody wants to get in my face, there's usually 3 very large men behind me. They're like, "You all right, LG?" I'm like, "Oh, I got this, asshole. Just let me handle it."
Good.
So I do love my bikers.
Do you have a bike?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
What do you have?
I have a 1981 Suzuki GS 750 L series.
Nice.
Bike. Mm-hmm.
I got rid of my bike when I moved to New York just because I wasn't trying to die.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And but now that we're in the country, I'm, you know, trying to find the way to put together the scratch to get another one.
Yeah.
Do you get out and ride much?
You know, I just got it. You know, I've had it for 7 years. In the last 3, it's been sitting in a garage because of touring. So
yeah,
I finally, since I'm not on tour, have enough time to figure out everything that needs to happen. So, but it has been sitting for 3 years. So I'm on a waiting list right now to get in at the mechanic. But above all things, it needs a new back tire before I can ride it, because they're sitting for 3 years. And I'm stupid, I didn't put it on the center stand, so it just sat on the tire for 3 years, and now it has a tread. So yeah. I learned a lesson though. If you're gonna put your bike in storage, always put it on the center stand.
A good idea.
Yeah, I totally forgot. And now I have to buy probably a $300 tire.
Right. But there's nothing like riding, man.
No. And here I'm very close to the Natchez Trace, so it's just like a really beautiful road that goes all the way to Mississippi, like down through almost to New Orleans, or to New Orleans. But it's a really beautiful road, and that's what I'm looking forward to most. Now it's too hot, so I'm not stressed out about getting it fixed. It'll happen.
It's 100 degrees here today, you know?
Yeah, it's 100 degrees here too. Yeah. It is Alabama hot. Whoop! You can cut that out. Don't let anyone know where I live. I don't want hipsters to move here, man. People are like, "Oh, LG's got it made down there in Alabama. I'm gonna move there." Next thing you know, I gotta wait in line for coffee. The thrift stores suck. You know, there's yoga. Well, I'm not gonna complain about yoga pants. I am gay, so that's fine. But yeah, that's something I was actually talking to Kay Pearson about. She was like, "Yeah, it's one thing to be an all-female band, but it's a whole nother thing to be a gay all-female band, you know, and we're not necessarily, you know, like all gay, like, because I do have a revolving lineup, but I'm fucking gay, you know? So yeah, she brought that up, and I thought it was fun. I was like, yeah, bitch, it is harder. It is double time weird, but yeah.
Here's something that happened to me at a young age and put me squarely in my place, because I didn't grow up in an environment where I didn't grow up in an environment that encouraged the idea that um, men could do things that women did and women could do things that men did. Right? It
Mm-hmm.
just it was that just none of that stuff was encouraged. Like if I wanted to do some stereotypically woman oriented, like if I wanted to learn how to knit or some shit, I would have been probably got my ass kicked, probably
Mm-hmm.
by my own family. But I replied to an ad in the paper for a heavy metal guitar player when I was in high school. And I called the number, and a female answered the phone, and I asked if I could speak to the person who placed the ad, and she said, "Yeah, that was me." And I said, "Wait, no, the guitar ad." And she said, "Yeah, that was me." And I said, "Oh, okay, okay." And she drove out to my house and proceeded to fucking school me. Like really school me on like all these on a bunch of crazy metal. Like I didn't deserve to be in a band with her. Like she was on another level. And so early on, I had been playing for a year and a half. I learned like, oh, right. This is that's how it is. That's
Mm-hmm.
just that's how it is. And whatever was sort of instilled in you growing up doesn't matter, because that's not how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got out of that little town as quickly as I could because of that reason and plenty of other reasons. Probably because I'd have been dead also before too long, or in prison. Um, but I just I wonder, other than continuing being part of the solution and not a part of the problem, what can people do to change this attitude? What can we?
Well, I think we live in a really exciting time, and I don't think enough people are taking advantage of it.
Right.
And I think that they also forget that it's all very recent that women are, we all want to take that, you know, initiative, and we want to be better, and we want to have these conversations, because for a long time that just was not the case. So I think the most important thing that people can do is have the conversation. Like nowadays, if you were, to walk in somewhere and be like, I'm looking for the metal, singer, wants to be in a band, and you said that, like, some bitch might rip your fucking head off. But I think it's still important to have the conversation, because and people should have conversations and not just expect everyone to know about radical activism and like feminism and all of these things that are important. And I think that you could be somebody's gateway into that if you really sit down and you're patient and you have the conversation. But I also think to just do research, not just listen to the shit that's marketed to you, because if you do, like, you're going to find out that there were a lot of women doing the same exact things that men were doing in the 70s, making great fucking 80s metal, like great shit, that just simply the industry wasn't interested. um, their whole situation was just a lot harder because they were women, and it was harder for them to get labeled. It's harder for them to be a part of the scene. So there's so many instances where still, people aren't being told about these bands, aren't being told about these women. So I think it's just important that you just do your research and just try to dig as deep as possible. Because I'm still digging, and I've been into it for, you know, fucking my whole life, and I'm still finding bands, and whether it's crazy, amazing, black female guitar players, or right now I've really been listening to Lovecraft. This record, I found it in New Orleans for $1,
What is that?
and it's Lalomi Washburn. She's the lead singer of this band.
Look at that fucking photo on the back.
I know, that's why I bought it. And
That's the band I want to be in.
yeah, it is sad because they only made this one record and nothing. She actually ended up writing songs for like Chaka Khan and becoming kind of really big in dance music in Germany. But this record wasn't really represented or shot the way that it should be because she's a black woman, and it was psychedelic rock. It was like heavy psychedelic rock, and so like they probably just said the same thing they said to a lot of them. Like, well, we can't sell that to anybody. No one's gonna want that. You guys don't look anything like Black Sabbath. You guys don't look anything like,
Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, and so it's a great fucking record though, and it's awesome, and it's not overproduced, which is something that you'll find when you start digging and looking for these bands too. But yeah, and also just being supportive when a young girl, that's what I try to do. When I keep guitars around my house just in case the little girl says she wants to play guitar. As soon as it starts, before she can finish the sentence, I'll hand her a guitar, because or play the drums. I think that is a great thing about rock and roll camp, all the rock camps, and they're all over the country now, and that existed when I was a kid. Oh my god!
Right.
I don't even know how different I would be. I
didn't even have the internet when I was a kid, let alone a music camp.
Yeah, and
have you participated in any of those as a mentor? Any of the?
Oh yeah. Well, as much as I can with my foul mouth and my internet presence,
Right.
But that's the thing, is those girls find me,
Right.
But I played countless fundraisers for them, and I did teach a guitar course one year, but I made a little girl cry, and I'm used to dealing with 30-year-old women in my life, and they're tough, and they're like very like jailhouse, so when I get in a little room with the little girl and she's like, I can't do it, it's too hard, I'm like, fuck it up, don't sit do it, oh, you complaining? What am I going to do? And the next thing you know, she's like, Mom! And I'm like, okay, all right. I was giving a girl virtual drum lessons the other day, and she was like, I was like, did you practice? And she was like, well, so you don't actually want to play the drums? And she was just like, and I was like, no, I did it again. I was like, I know, because that's how I was talked to. Her mom wasn't bad. Her mom was like, no, that's fine, Elsie. Like, I'm glad you talked to her like that. But I was a little freaked out. I don't like making little girls cry.
But I mean, that's a fair enough statement to make, right? I mean, when I picked up the guitar, I wanted to play the guitar, and so I played for 5 or 6 hours a day.
Yeah. And also, don't want her mom to waste her fucking money. Her mom's paying me $25 a week, and this little girl's not listening or trying to do anything I say. My mom was a single mom. $25 is a lot of fucking money for a single mom.
Yeah, I grew up on food stamps.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste your mom's fucking money. You don't want to learn to play drums? Take a walk, sis. I got better shit to do. I'm a fucking rock star. Sitting here teach you the fucking drums.
Yeah.
You don't even know who the fuck I am, asshole. But yeah, no. I do love rock camps. I do think they're important, and I have volunteered as much as I can within the capacity of my foul mouth and internet presence. But like I said, a lot of those little girls find me anyways, and they're always like, kind of copying my shit now, and I'm just like, oh my god,
that's amazing. I'll tell you this funny story. I've told it a fucking million times on the show, but I didn't start my Wikipedia page. Someone had a college project, and they started a Wikipedia page for every person in my band. But when my friends found out, they all went and fucked with it, which I don't care. I don't give a fuck. But one of the points, they have to have references that populate it, like whatever. Like anyone can change it, but you have to have the shit on the internet to back it up, right? There's got to be some sort of a reference, fact check or whatever. Well, someone wrote a bio for me that I couldn't tour with a band that I toured with because of the terms of my parole. And that made my Wikipedia page, which is untrue. I didn't tour because I quit, but this person wrote this funny bio. So when I was teaching guitar, I could always tell when someone had, like when a parent had gone on and Googled my name, because they would either just stop showing up, or they would show up and they would have that look on their face like, what does this scumbag do? And it was pretty fun because it was, like night and day when you spot it. And then that's when I would just say, hey, did you get on the internet and type my name into there? Is that what you did? Because you're acting a little funny, or are you just having a bad day?
Yeah, no, I was fucking volunteering at a homeless shelter over the winter, and in this small place where I live, very very tiny, very southern, very prim and proper, and then fucking did it like 3 times, no problem. Keep up after the hobos, make the coffee, do the nice thing, feel good, have conversations. Great. It's for me more than it's for them, because it makes me feel nice to help people and not just be a loser and selfish and think about myself all the time. But yeah, like, like every time I showed up, this guy comes up. Well, my niece was here the other week, and she said you're in the band. She said you're in the band. She loves your band. It's called Thelma and The Sleaze. Is that right? And I was just like, I'm never coming back. I'm never coming back to this place, because they're all like, Alabama Christian people that are just like, it's just about Jesus and everything. And I was like, I do not want y'all to look at my videos and look at my internet presence. And the next thing you know, I'm getting, but it's like, yeah, it's very stressful. I could never run for office.
Never say never.
Well, I guess I could.
Never say never.
I definitely probably could. You're right. Actually, the bar's been set so low.
I would say.
Yeah, I think I could get away with it.
At this point, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if what you say is unagreeable. Like if you've got the most powerful megaphone, you'll win.
I literally sent on my Instagram yesterday, whose dong do I have to deep throat to get y'all to add our songs to your Spotify playlist?
Jesus Christ.
Still, and the funniest thing is we're on like 500 Spotify playlists. I just do that shit because it makes me feel like, I just like to people say I'm a people's champion, I'm a working girl out here, but we're actually on pretty good.
What do you use to put your podcast out? Oh, let's talk about your podcast for a minute so that people will go over and when I've guested on other people's podcasts, I always get a boost in my listener base, which is really nice. Hopefully,
well, you heard it here, folks. Come
get on over there.
My podcast is called Queen of Shit Mountain.
Yeah.
I don't do all the production and the editing. I have a producer and an engineer who mixes it, which is the only reason I do it. Because otherwise I wouldn't have the attention span to do. It takes a lot of work to do a podcast.
You're singing to the choir right now.
Yeah. And all I have to do is just call up my friends, my rocker babe friends, and, heroes, and just be like, will you talk to me for an hour? And they're like, yeah. And so they gave me a little cast cam and I just hit record. And I love my podcast very much. I think it's good.
It's super fun to do. I've heard a couple of them, and they're great. I think.
Thank you.
And I think you're great.
Thank you.
What do you know? What service you use to put it out?
I don't. I can message my producer and ask her. I don't know. Like I said, she does all of that. I have no idea. I just know that I sent her the podcast episode yesterday. She mixes it today and tomorrow. She sends it off to the mixer on Tuesday. She sends me a preview. I okay the preview. Then it goes on there.
Man, I gotta get that, because I do all the bullshit too, and I'm putting
Well, it's nice too because she listens to the whole interview. I mean, we're talking 2 fucking hours. With my last interview was 2 fucking hours.
Right.
So it's like not all of that is good shit. And so she goes through and she finds the shit that's actually engaging and interesting,
The
and
bits.
yeah, the good stuff. And the first season was just about my journey as an artist, and like kind of starting the band. And there's a lot of, that's what they said. They were like, will you just talk, they came to me and they were like, will you just talk into this thing about crazy shit like you talk about? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that easy. And they paid me, so I was like, fuck yeah. And then the second season, they dropped their podcast. The podcast company dropped it after the first season. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do it if it doesn't sound as good as the first season. And then I started thinking about like all these women started coming to me and looking at me as like an example of like, how to be in the industry and be, this like DIY rock and roll queen. And I was like, well, yes, I am that, but that's just my journey, and like it's very specific. You know what I mean? Like, this is not how you are gonna have to do it, or anyone else should probably have to do it. But then I started like kind of just being like, but what? How else can you do this if you're uncompromising? If you have a really clear vision of what you want, and if you are a woman in the industry, how are some other ways that you can do this? And offering that blueprint to artists coming up and saying, if you, no matter what genre you're in, no matter what level of success you're at, no matter the time. I mean, I've interviewed Tanya Tucker, I've interviewed Rennie Howard, I've interviewed, Kay Pearson from the B-52s, I've interviewed, bitches that are on my level, bitches that are a little lower than me, maybe a little higher than me, but like all with the same uncompromising vision, with the same kind of tenacity, with the same desire to make sure the shit they produce is real and original. And so that's what it was about for me. It was just like, God forbid you have to do it my way. And if you do, you can get that out of the first season. But if you get to do it either an easier way or a harder way, or just like you gave up or whatever, anyway, like this is how you do it by like a bunch of other people's experiences. So, and they're all women I admire, and they're all women that I think, have a real good handle on success and what that means. And you can define that in a lot of different ways. And that's what it's about for me. So I'm glad I've gotten to have a conversation. I'm not a good interviewer. I didn't know how to interview people. So it's taken me half the season to just figure that out.
My favorite thing about podcasts are, at least with mine, it's clearly not like an interview where I didn't have a list of questions. Like I want the vibe to be like we met at a dinner party, or
Yeah.
at a party, or at a show, and we're shooting the shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Cutting up.
that's why podcasts are cooler than even public radio to me.
Yeah.
Because those have defined formats as well.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be laid back, and it's nice to just get to hear conversations, be a fly on the wall,
But I feel like, I'm reminded all the time that I am a nearly 50-year-old straight white person, and I have, I've, I just have never had to deal with the kind of shit that other people have had to deal with. And so when you were talking about uncompromising women, my mind started to think for a moment that it is a fucking shame, but to be uncompromising as a woman, you barely have to make a decision. Like there's so many compromises asked of women that are not asked of men. And I think it's just, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is I appreciate you for a lot. And I appreciate your entire approach and attitude.
Thank you. I think it's important to note, though, too. It's like, it's not to say that you haven't gone through shit in your life as a white. You know what I mean? And that's what I think.
Oh, sure, I have.
One thing that people need to grasp is that it's not to say that your life hasn't been hard, or you haven't had your struggles. It's imagining how much harder those things that you've been through would have been if you were black, if you were a woman, if you were. So it's not to say that I don't.
If I was black, I would be dead. The way I've talked to fucking cops in my life.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I always assume that people have had struggles and people have had things that have happened in their lives, but and I don't think that they realize that it's just, if I was a black woman, it would just be, my life would be a lot harder.
Right.
And I would get even less attention than I do now for being a fucking antagonizing dyke. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
an ugly, handsome, antagonizing dyke. So it's like, yeah, I think that's where it sets in, because yeah, you can be a white guy and have a hard time for sure, but it's realizing that you've been given a little bit more allowance than what anyone else would, you know?
I mean, I have a friend who's my age. He went to prison, got out of prison, and he's white. He got out of prison, and now he has like, he gets government contracts.
Yeah,
You know, like he makes good money doing
yeah.
government contract work. Can you imagine being anything other than a white guy and having that opportunity? It's impossible. And anyone, actually, I'll say it, anyone that's listening to me and thinks that this is not true, you can stop listening and you can stop following, and or you can patiently ask yourself if you really think that's untrue, because I just don't think that I don't think there's a perspective you can possibly take where that is an unreasonable statement. It just isn't.
Yeah, and I think it's the times in your life where, like, when you get pulled over, you know, you're a white guy. You know what I mean? You're gonna be okay. I mean, you do have some tattoos, but I'm just saying, like, you're not like thinking in your head like, oh shit, I'm a white guy. You
Right.
know what I mean? When I get pulled over, in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh fuck, like I'm in a van full of rock and roll, like looking dykes, and we're fucking, and there's some of us have been to jail, and some of us have, but at the same time, I'm not black, you
Right.
know, and it's like those instances where shit happens to you, where you have to think like, I'm this is gonna suck, you know what I mean, or this is happening because I'm this, and if you don't have those in your life, you can never understand what that's like, you know, like showing up at a venue in a van loaded down with equipment at sound check time, pulling up to the dock and having someone say, can I help you?
Right.
Yeah, asshole. We're just here to give the guys we're open for blowjobs. What the fuck do you think we're here for? It's a sound check. We're fucking loaded down with gear. There's 5 people in a minivan. You think we just do this for fun?
Right.
Open the fucking door, asshole. Like, you just don't have that conversation when you're fucking, or you're like, are you guys lost? We're not open till 10. You know why you're opening? Because I'm fucking playing tonight. That's why. That's why anyone's gonna be in this fucking shithole. Isn't that interesting? Did you even look? Your
Right.
job was to roll out of bed at 4 p.m., smoke a bong, drink a monster, and show up to this fucking place. I had to drive 10 hours. I'd like to be spoken to with a little bit more fucking, maybe I'll look and see who's playing tonight. That's not hard. you
Right.
know? That's pretty easy. I had to fucking get these girls. I had to fucking talk to the promoter. I had to look at the sound check. I had to find out all these times. All you had to do was look and say, who's playing tonight? Maybe it's not a bunch of white dudes. Maybe it's a fucking like rock band. Maybe, you know. But yeah, it's that's annoying. You know, I've always. This isn't relevant to even the current times. I've always been very grateful that I'm not a black woman. Because that shit, it would be immensely harder.
Right.
And every time I opened my mouth, I would be called a soul singer, even though I was a rock and roller. You know what I mean? Just dumb shit like that. That they have to put up with, amongst other things. So
Right.
that being said, a lot of black artists have put me on, have put me up. So there are people that overcome great adversities and great things to achieve their goals and to be, artists that can help me out. I can't do shit for anybody, but a lot of Black artists have put me on and had my back, and uh, you know, it's helped me. So I'm forever in debt to a lot of really great African American artists who, you know, they're like, "Oh, LG, she's cool as fuck." Thank God. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. Finally, well, I must be doing something right if you think so. Because you're a badass. Thank you.
Right.
So I wish I was a gatekeeper, but I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm just a crazy white bitch. But I can't change nothing.
Well, that's not true.
I try. All you can do is try.
Right.
That's something I've asked several of the older artists that I've spoken to that have been really political, been really outspoken over the course of the year. I was like, do you ever get tired? Do you ever think, oh, was it worth it? Did I do anything? Because everything's still so fucked up. But they always have really good perspective. And it's scary too, because I don't think a lot of those artists could exist now, and be as successful and be given as much license as they were then, even, which is scary. I think we've evolved in a lot of ways because we can pick and choose more.
Right.
And we don't seek out experiences where we're uncomfortable or where we're, out of our element. We don't seek those out as much. So would the B-52s have left off? I don't know. Would Patti Smith be able to get on stage and have a song called, Rock and Roll N.I.G.,
Yeah.
We don't know. We do not know. I think there's a yin and a yang to everything, but I think that, artists should be given the opportunity to speak before they're judged, and I think that we should all seek more experiences out that make us a little uncomfortable. I think that's important, and I'm scared that that's not the case anymore.
I think there's so much happening all around the country right now, that there are people that are out and demonstrating and protesting, and then there are people who are simply seeking, comfort food, and in its many forms, and maybe comfort food also is like really unchallenging. Maybe it's Celine Dion or something, or it's Leo
It
Sayer.
is for me. It is for me. Celine Dion. Because if you think about it, Celine Dion is the greatest metal singer of all time that's never sang metal.
You think she's metal?
Oh, I've said this 1,000 times, and you could ask all my best friends. What would LGA do if she got $1 million? Because I'm a fucking idiot. The first thing I would do is I would go to Celine Dion and I would say, I'll give you $1 million to do an Iron Maiden cover set for me and my friends. And she would fucking do it.
If you ever get $1 million and you get her to do that, can I get an invite to that? Because I love
You're
Iron
damn right.
Maiden.
Yeah, because I've seen Iron Maiden, and the whole time I'm thinking, like, Celine Dion does chest pounds. She fucking does the rock claw when she sings. She fucking has a range, like a crazy fucking range. Like, she would fucking kill it. I mean, if you like Iron Maiden and haven't listened to the song To Love You More by Celine Dion and been like, wow, you fucking up, man. You're fucking up. Because she's the greatest metal singer that's never sang metal of all time.
What did you see that cut when she did "You Shook Me All Night Long"? She covered AC/DC, which isn't metal.
That's a wedding song. Like, anybody can sing "You Shook Me All Night Long."
I mean, I couldn't sing that. That's too high for me.
It was a sex machine. I can do it. Just leave it up. I got it. No, I want to hear her sing "Number of the Beast." I want to hear her sing fucking "The Trooper." I want to hear her sing fucking
"Power Slave."
Yeah,
2 minutes to midnight.
Sing, yeah. I want to hear her sing that.
"Power Slave" was the first. That tour was the first concert, no parents concert, that I went to. I saw the Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister on the Power Slave tour. Yeah, it was fucking great.
Fuck. Yeah. I wish I could say that was my first concert, but it's not.
I cried at an Iron Maiden concert once.
I don't fucking. I got only one I went to was in Atlanta, and my ex-girlfriend got me it for my birthday, and that was when I was drinking. And so we got like 10 of those fucking $20 beers, drank them out of our boots. We got so shit hammered. Oh man, and it was awesome. And then I got mistaken for a prostitute. It was crazy. We sat for like 3 hours outside of a gas station in Atlanta in a bad part of town, just drinking Heinekens, talking about being lesbians. It's like, no, you're a really good girlfriend because you took me to see Iron Maiden. Like, who does that? It does it is very sweet. So sweet. This one's empty. Give me another one. But yeah, that was one of the best nights of my life. And then we went to Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles the next day in
Oh
Atlanta.
yeah.
It's such a fucking great 24 hours.
I like Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't like Atlanta, but I do. I did have a really good night that night because I think if I was shit hammered more in Atlanta, I would like Atlanta. But now that I'm sober, I find Atlanta to be, I don't know. I love my fans in Atlanta, I should say, and I love playing at the Earl. I always have a great show at the Earl.
Sure.
But yeah, Atlanta as a whole, not my favorite southern city. It just a little too, just hard to get places, and also just like
it is huge.
There's a cheesiness to Atlanta that is the cheesiness factor in Atlanta's rock scene is a little much sometimes for me, even. But I shouldn't say bad things about Atlanta in terms of shows because it was a hard nut to crack. But once I cracked that nut, the meat was very good and delicious. So I'm very grateful to my fans in Atlanta. I love them very much. And I will always enjoy playing for them in Atlanta. But in terms of wanting to hang out in Atlanta, not my favorite. New Orleans, I'm more of a New Orleans girl. I like New Orleans.
What if
for people watching?
What if Fry Boots threw a festival in New Orleans? Would you play?
Hey, money talks. Money talks, bullshit walks. I'll do anything.
But not in Fry Boots, it doesn't walk.
No. No, fuck Fry Boots. I mean, any boot companies that want to sponsor Thelma and The Sleaze, I'm throwing the gauntlet down. Look, you could have access to up to 14,000 people. You know what I mean? Huge following. I've got almost as many fans as, a girl who makes TikToks. Almost.
It's a crazy world now, man. In some ways it's easier than ever to get visibility, but it's hard to gauge what's real.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just, there's just, you just have to keep it simple. You have to think like what's important in the long term,
Right.
Because there are just so many bands that get attention for different reasons, maybe. And, it's not what I do. What I do is different. And my fans are great. And I don't have a shit ton of them, but I have very enthusiastic quality fans that aren't just like, oh, maybe I'll go see Thelma and The Sleaze. They're like, fucking Thelma and The Sleaze,
Yeah.
And that's what I got. So,
do you do anything like Patreon or anything like that?
I do for the podcast. I do like extra exclusive content and stuff over there for the podcast.
Yeah.
Just for me, I have a open format fan club album. So basically, I made a Dropbox file and I put all my demos and unreleased tracks and ideas and weird shit I put in that. And so people can, when I open it for enrollment, which I only do a couple times a year, because I do just want to keep it to like my real fans, they can go and they can purchase it for however much they have, so $1 to like $100 if they, so people pay more, so they listen. But I constantly add to it and I constantly take stuff out, so it's just like that's a bunch of stuff. So that's kind of my Patreon for Thelma and The Sleaze is like, but I sell albums, I sell shirts, I sell records, things like that, and I keep all the money, which is why I haven't signed to a label or anything like that. It's because, you know, all those bitches owe people money. I don't owe people money for the
Right.
most part. I mean, I owe a little bit, but not a lot.
I've had a half dozen record deals and I never made a dime off any of them.
Oh yeah, people are always like, I got this advance, and I'm like, that's not an advance. You should call it a loan.
Right.
You know, that you're not going to be able to pay that because I've seen your fucking lead singer and I've seen your drummer, and those assholes they're not going to do well under pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know that
But
store down on the corner with the yellow sign that says payday advance?
yeah,
Yeah, that's the advance you just got.
yeah, and I've been offered advances, but they've never been enough to improve my situation. You know what I mean? I've been poor so long, my whole life, so it's not like that amount of money is going to change my life, you
Right.
know, in any real way. And they don't come in knocking now as often because, you know, they didn't get that first album or that's what they want. They want that like seminal fucking first record or
Right.
whatever they think, you know, because, but, you know, like I said, nothing that I do is really reflective or similar to like other artists nowadays. It's easier for me to maintain it, and it's easier for just me to, you know, work with smaller labels and smaller people because it's like, you know, they're not going to question my shit. They're not going to, you know, have a lot of weird fucking shit they try to do to market me and shit. Like, you know, and I get it. A lot of people hear me and they go, oh, like she looks a lot like Janis Joplin. It's like, yeah, okay. I have one blues song. I have one blues song. Okay? That's it. You know what I mean? Like the rest of them, maybe there's a little blues in there, but it's not. I don't sound like Janis Joplin. I don't
Right.
sing like Janis Joplin. But you know, that's the kind of that's just the shit they want me to do because I got a little pixie face and long, you know, reddish hair, and you know, I do screech a little bit sometimes, but not often. And yeah, it's like it's just not, and I don't particularly look up to her, so I don't really like comparison, you know.
Right.
So like that kind of shit's never appealed to me, and you know, when the time's right, if money's right, I'll sign something. But because I even had a lawyer call me once and say, "Are you going to sign this deal?" And I was like, "Man, I've been reading through it, and it doesn't seem like a very good deal." And she was like, "Yeah, I think you can do better." And I was like, "Then why did you just ask me if I was going to sign it?"
Right.
You know what I mean? But she had a little extra thing. If I signed, she got to, you know, paid.
Sure.
So it was like, yeah, it's like, no, no, I think I could do better. Yeah, and I'm so glad I didn't sign that because, yeah, it's like, yeah, I would be on a label with a bunch of bands, but I know all those bands. I talked to all those bands. And I'm like, why are you still working at a barista spot? You're fucking opening for Blondie and fucking running tours with Garbage and fucking, you know, playing these huge festivals. And oh, you know, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Not my kitchen.
Right. You're doing better without a deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's all subjective. If you
Sure.
want to get, you know, if you want to get on a bunch of fucking show me tours with a bunch of, it's all subjective. I mean, what
Right.
is success? If some people, I'll say I played with somebody, they'll be like, "Oh, you played with them?" I'm like, is that a big deal? I don't know.
Right.
I'm surprised, you know. So, uh, yeah. But for us, it's just, you know, I like to say I don't have a lot of money and I don't have a lot of fame, but I'm a legend, and that's something. And
Agreed.
that's not. It's a fact, you know. Uh,
Yeah, I think
that's just a,
that's been a theme that we've talked about on this podcast a little bit because I've talked to folks who have had varying degrees of whatever we want to call success, right?
mhm.
Um, and if you ask 15-year-old me who lived in a trailer and had thrift store clothes and grew up on food stamps, government cheese, and got free lunch at school, uh, I am, you know, insanely successful. But if you ask, you know, 48-year-old me right now, how do you feel? I'm like, well, fuck, I wake up at 6 in the morning and I go work 40 hours and then I work on my shit. And depending on what day you catch me, I'll be like, well, I gave it my best shot. But the thing is, I did everything I wanted to do,
Uh huh.
uh, except for get rich. And I don't think that getting rich was anything that I ever thought was actually possible. I I didn't even know anyone that was rich. Like the people who like quote had money in the town I grew up in, they had cable. Like they were rich, they had cable. Like we would go to those kids' houses and watch MTV, like that's what a rich person was.
Uh-huh.
But, you in America, you can be a successful artist, have a day job or not, but it's kind of like what you were saying before. It's up to you. It's whether or not you're successful is up to you to decide, not for anyone else.
I like to think about it like there's conventions
Yeah.
for postcards. There are people who are so adamant and so passionate about collecting postcards that they gather in a large space and collect and trade and buy postcards.
Yeah.
The population of the world is so fucking big. There are billions of people in this fucking world. Somebody is gonna like your fucking music, okay? You can't sit on your ass and put a song on Bandcamp and expect for that person to find it.
Right.
You gotta go the fuck out into the world and rattle as many cages and take every opportunity you possibly can to get your music to that person. And if you work your fucking ass off like a fucking dog, you're gonna find enough of them that you can fucking survive.
Yeah.
Because probably 1 out of 10 people that sees my band and likes my band gets my band. You know what I mean? And it means something to them. And I mean something to them. And my band isn't about all of these other things that other bands' stories have been about. It's really my journey and my relationships with a lot of very talented, very headstrong women like me, getting in rooms and raising the fucking bar and playing music in a way that nobody else can play it, ever. Maybe it's not super technical. Maybe it's not, doesn't remind you of something else or sound like something else, but it's our fucking music. And if you played our music anywhere, people would be like, that's Thelma and The Sleaze. Or what is that? What is that? You know what I mean? Because you never heard it.
Right.
That's a great goal, to have that be my life story, to say I've gotten to make some really great friends, get to see some really great places, and make music that I really give a shit about, for people that I really give a shit about.
That's success.
That's pretty good. Yeah, all with a $50 PV amp.
I love what. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it?
I had the same Classic X 212 combo for like 12, 13 years. I bought it for $50. This dude at the pizza place. And I was smart. I took the speakers out and I used it just as a head through a 4-cab. Fender's 4-cab.
Uh-huh.
And I fixed like 2 transistors, maybe like 2 tubes, over the last. And it's beer, sweat, heat, shaky PV chassis. We all know about that. And just keeps trucking.
I love that.
And a fucking
made in Mississippi.
The Mississippi Marshall, yeah. So I've got a minivan and a PV, and we go. But I mean, you've heard "Buying It." That song's 100% reflective of my, Bagman calls me, tells me my accounts are dry, $15 in my pocket and 500 miles to drive. Like, I can't tell you, and to this day, and if I went on tour tomorrow, like, how many tours I've had to buy all my own merch, right? Outright.
Right.
So when I get in the van to go on tour, I literally have $10 fucking dollars. And 3 bitches in my van who make, X amount of dollars a day. And if I don't get to fucking Carbondale and play this $500 guarantee show, like, this tour is not. This is just gonna get fucking weird,
Yeah.
So it's like, you really have to leave and just be like, trust that if you show up and you work hard and you do what you say you're gonna do, you're gonna get to the next town, and you're gonna get to the next town, but it's town to town. It's still, and it hasn't been, it hasn't been as bad these last couple of years because reforming the band, becoming an alternative lineup, changing the focus, that all took time. You know what I mean? And some of our fans were like, "Oh, well, I like the harder power true. I like that true. I like that." Well, good for you, honey. Like, I'm not sitting around here trying to fucking settle at the age of fucking 30 with what I want to do with my life as an artist. Like, I'm gonna constantly challenge myself, and I'm constantly gonna try, but at the end of the fucking day, it's my band, and that all took time. So, but now I think we finally been able to recatch up our steam, and I can say that we're better off than when we were at that point, about to break the glass ceiling or whatever people thought, which I'm grateful didn't happen when it was supposed to happen, because those bitches were snakes. You know what I mean? And that shit would have lasted a fucking day before everybody's fucking bullshit and ego would have. And now I run with a thorough pack of fucking lady wolves. You know what I mean? And them bitches will cut you for me, and our band is a lot like the fucking mob. If I need a drum set in Phoenix by 6 a.m. on a Thursday, I'm gonna have it. You know what I mean? If I need something done, I straight up have a rock and roll mob rules, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's not even just about success, and when it comes, it's about, are you ready? Do you have the kind of people around you who are gonna nurture that success and want to be a part of it in a way that's healthy and sustainable? No, I did not. And
right.
So I'm very grateful. And what I have, like I said, isn't, some bands, you have to look at it that way too. Some bands look at my band and think, "Oh, Thelma and The Sleaze, man, they really got it," and I'm like, "What? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, asshole. Say so." Like, I even had a girl start playing with me, like, she's like 25, and she's like pretty established on her own, and she hit me up last winter about playing bass for me, because I always need a bass player. She hit me up and she was like, started hanging around, asking me questions, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, "No, I really thought, like, you had more shit, like, like management and booking agents and, label help and stuff." And I'm like, "No, ma'am." No, ma'am. And I think when I actually met with the manager, like a big manager, like 4 years ago, to ask her, like, why doesn't anyone want to help me? Like, why doesn't anyone want to, like, take me on? Or, like, what is it? She's like, "Well, if you look at your website, if you look at your Instagram, if you look at your tours, if you look at all this, your albums, like, it doesn't look like you need help, And a lot of people want to get somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, so they can take advantage of them or be at the ground floor,
right.
to, like, build it up.
They don't want a partner. They want someone that they can exploit.
No, yeah, and it's, but like I said, some bands look at us, "Oh, Thelma and The Sleaze, that's the way to do it," and I'm just like, no, you're not ready. But like I said, it just helps too, because the girls that I play with are all fucking chill. They're getting paid. They don't start bullshit, and I have enough of a reputation that they know if that bullshit were to occur, they would have to find a Greyhound home from wherever we work, because I have no patience. So, but I don't really have to do that very often, because, like I said, they respect me, which is very odd, and they're, they want to be a part of the storyline. They want to be a part of the journey, and they want to learn. A lot of the girls I play with, they're 25 and 24 now, and I'm 35, and they come in because they're, like, doing their own shit, and they want to, they want to learn how to fucking put on a show. They want to learn how to talk to people. They want to learn how to,
interact with promoters and bookers and
and be on stage and just, like, build up their fucking audience. I mean, it's a great way. A lot of the ladies play with come in, it's a great way for them to build up their own audience for whatever they're fucking doing. Yeah, I'll go on tour with you for 2 weeks and you're blasting me on your Instagram. Next thing you know, you got 500 more followers, and people who give a shit about you is so, and want to hear your own shit. So
Yeah.
It's not like a bunch of egos and bullshit and power struggle crap that was happening in my band before all that shit went down, so. But that being said, I'm still on good terms with most of the women I've played with. There's a couple that I'm not, but it's not because of me. It's because they have their own things that they need to deal with in their lives. And that's all.
Yeah.
But
well, I think that you are. I think if there's an opportunity in the future where music and live music gets to reapproach normalcy, or reapproaches something that is even resembles the way we've taken in live music in the past, I feel like it's inevitable that you just feel like you are destined to be embraced on a greater level. And yeah, I'm excited. I was very happy to get to talk to you. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. I think the world of you. So
thank you. I need 1 million more of you.
Yeah. Don't say it. Careful what you wish for. 1 million of me is a pain in the ass.
If I had 1 million people that thought the world of me and kept my records on their rack, I would be pretty happy. I'd have, 3 blonde wives, and I'd live in Miami, and I'd drive a Lamborghini, and every time a little snot-nosed girl with glasses came up to me and was like, go play guitar. I'd just be like, have a guitar. Have a guitar. Oh, that's old. Have a guitar LG. You don't know about her? She made millions. Moved to Miami. She started handing guitars to little girls.
Just handing them out.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just thinking in my head about like crackhead like coming up to me in pigtails and a little dress. And I like to play guitar, LG.
There you go.
You're not a little girl.
You'd have to have a pickup truck and not a Lamborghini, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Hey, quick question. Do you really want me to cut out any of the Alabama stuff?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. I thought so, but I figured it was worth checking. There have been, it's I don't know if you've experienced this or if it's, because it's always been men. Inevitably, it's always men that I'll have these conversations with. And then they'll say, hey, can you cut out such and such? Or they'll listen back and be like, hey, man, why'd you leave that in there? Because you said it, motherfucker.
Yeah. No. I know how to talk shit.
Okay,
and
good.
It's fine. I don't like, but also I mean, Shoals is a magical place. And it has reflected in my artistry. I just don't like to make a big deal about it because I've worked too hard in Nashville to have that be, questioned. And they've tried to question it because I've been here for almost 4 years. So, but I'll just be like, next time y'all need an opener for a band that draws, don't call me. And they're like, well, LG, that's not what I was talking. Well, that's what it sounded like, asshole. I just worked too hard in Nashville to, and I do intend to move to another big city. I just don't know which one it is yet because I do miss it. But I just haven't decided where that's going to be.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get rich and it'll be Miami. And I can,
Is that really where you want to be, Miami?
I mean, if I were rich and had all the money in the world, absolutely, I would live in Miami. I love Miami because you walk around shirtless and nobody thinks anything about it. Right. I would never have to wear a shirt in Miami, and I could drive a Lamborghini and no one would be like, "Oh, look at this bitch in a Lamborghini." They'd just be like, "Hey, let's look at each other's Lamborghinis," and and I love the Art Deco design. I love opulence. I love like fucking everything in Miami, and it's just a fucking. I love everything about Miami. I've never disliked Miami. It's beautiful. It feels like you're in another country. And yeah, I like the food. Like you can get like cheap, good food, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. Like people are always like, "LA's got great food," and it seems like everything I eat in LA is either too much money or gross. But in Miami, everything I've ever eaten there is fucking great. And for cheap Cuban breakfast, Cuban coffee.
I've been to
Oh,
Cuba, and
I've never been to Cuba.
the food in Miami is better than the food in Cuba.
I bet.
The Cuban
I
food
fucking
yeah.
I love a Cuban breakfast. That loaf of bread with the ham and the eggs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, baby. And I get that for my girls. I go and they treat me like garbage in Miami because I'm just a dumb white bitch. You know, I'll go in there, and the Cuban bitch will be like, "What do you want?" And I'll be like, like a Cuban coffee and Cuban breakfast, please. Is that all? Yes, ma'am. Is it for here to fucking go? It's for to go. Okay,
It's
$8.
for to fucking go.
You know, it's like $8 and I'm like, here you go. You know, because they don't want hipsters. They want me to yelp. They're like, don't you fucking yelp about this place. I don't want a bunch of you in here. You know, and it's like, I promise, I'm not gonna yelp. If Guy Ferrari shows up in here, bitch, I kill you. I find you, I kill you. You know, it's like I promise, I'm not a hipster, man. You know, so I love it. I fucking love it. Mostly just being topless all the time.
Right.
That'd just be great. Just be fucking great. Just flip flops, topless Gucci loafers, coffee. Because if you know what a Lamborghini sounds like, to hear it in the distance is like you could see the arms go, or the hair go up on my arms. Like it's just like such an enthralling thing, and you just hear it's like, you know, and it like just pulls up. You're like, oh my god, it's a real Lamborghini. Like,
have you driven one?
When we released the album, we did like a pop-up museum.
Yeah.
And it was like a Thelma and The Sleaze history museum to celebrate our 10 years as a band. And I had a Lamborghini at that, and I got to sit in it. But I didn't actually drive. That's how the poor stay poor, man. You know, that's one thing. I take one left turn, I get smacked by a fucking ice cream truck, and that's, you know, next thing you know, I'm paying off a Lamborghini the rest of my life.
Right.
You know, I'm a hard luck woman. I try to avoid those situations at all costs. Yeah, that's what kept me sober and out of a lot of trouble. Is just being like, I am not an exception to any rule. Everything that can happen will happen to me.
Murphy's Law.
It's just the way it is with me. It's what
Right.
you get for being white trash, and that's what happened. But I have gotten to date a lot of hot women because of it as well, so I can't complain.
It sounds like you got your hand on the microphone. There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. I'm gonna go walk my doggies.
Well, it was nice to chat.
Thanks
for
so
having me.
much.
And
this is let's see, this will be, I'm coming up on 100 episodes, so I believe.
Oh, congratulations!
Oh, thank you. I believe this will be episode 97. I think it's
Very
97. Nice. Yeah. And it'll be Monday after a week from tomorrow. It'll go up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.
And I hope everyone will listen to my new album, Fuck, Marry, Kill, and my podcast, Quinn Shipman.
I'll plug it I do an intro at the beginning, and I'll plug both of those things hard.
Awesome. Thanks it was cool to get to be interviewed. Good change. I've been doing all the interviewing lately.
Right, huh?
Yeah.
It's always, you know, as you know, I don't know if you've had guests on that aren't that are less engaging than others, but it's hard to like sometimes motivate people to talk. There's nothing worse than, you know, having to drag stuff out of folks. And it's great to have an articulate and expressive guest, and you are all that. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Enjoy your dog walk. Please continue to stay safe. And if you talk to Scott before I do, tell him I said hi.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.